In Tempe, Arizona. Folks started lining up early this morning, and in Atlanta, Georgia, they're seeing very heavy turnout. And this is the scene in Warren, Michigan, which is just outside Detroit. And here are the lines in Philadelphia, in Pennsylvania, to be clear. And we now have fixed our technical difficulties with CNN's Brian Todd. He's joining us from Pennsylvania right now, where just moments ago, the state's governor said he expects the vote counting to go faster than it did back in 2020. Brian, update our viewers.
Well, Wolf, they do expect it to go faster than in 2020, and there's a real sense of exhilaration here in Western Pennsylvania. Why? Because it is finally the voters' day. After all the buildup, all the hype, it is the day that the voters can finally have their say in who wins. And here in Western Pennsylvania, throughout the state of Pennsylvania, voters that we talk to here are just jacked because they know that this is a battleground state. They know that they are going to have a real say in who wins this election. I've got two people who just voted here in North Strabane Township Precincts 1 and 2, Reba and Sean Douglas. Reba, first of all, what are the issues that really brought you out here? What do you care about the most?
I think it came to women's rights for me and just morale in general between the two candidates. That was my decision.
Okay, Sean, what about you? What are the issues that really drove you out here?
My main concern is the economy and putting the United States first above really any other country. So that's what brought me out, is to voice my opinion and do what I think's best for the economy and the United States.
And the process. Now, the process here, don't be fooled by no line here, folks, by the way, because this line has gone out the door and down to the corner for much of the day. How did the process here go for you? Fairly smoothly?
It was smooth, in and out within 5 minutes for me.
Okay. Sean, how about you?
Yeah, very smooth. I stopped by this morning at 7 and the line was around the building, but so came back later and it was a little more reasonable, but still a good process, smooth process.
All right. Thank you guys very much for talking to us. Good luck and thanks for coming out. So guys, also just kind of a reflection here of the importance of the battleground, the battleground vibe here in Pennsylvania. We had voters, at least 3 of them, tell us that they may not have come out here and voted if they didn't know that this state was so critical a battleground state and that they would make a difference. Wolf, back to you.
All right, Brian Todd reporting in Pennsylvania for us. Thank you very much. So the Vice President, Kamala Harris, is speaking right now over at the Democratic National Committee headquarters in Washington. I want to listen in. Listen to this.
I just came by because we have all these incredible people from every background who are all here volunteering to make calls to reach out to our fellow Americans and to remind you you vote. I'm not. How are you doing? Have you voted already?
Give me a second.
You did. Thank you. Thank you so very much. You know, it's so important that everybody participates, and I thank you because I'm sure you got a lot of other things you could be doing, but taking the time to vote really does make a difference. So thank you for that. And you enjoy your day, okay? Madam President!
All right, this is a real phone bank. Get back to making calls. Please, please, please. We got voters that still get out.
Jennifer, it's Kamala Harris. How are you? I am well. I just wanted to call you check in and make sure you know where you can go vote today if you haven't already. Have you voted yet? Oh, thank you. Thank you so very much. And thank you for just being active and participating in this very, very important process. It's the foundation of our democracy that we can't do it without people like you. Just knowing our voice. Oh, good. What's your name?
Thank you so much.
Sage? Hi, it's Kamala Harris. I can't wait for you to grow 10 years more. Oh, you know what? IEPs are so important. We have so much work to do to just I can tell you're really smart and you're working really
take the
hard,
bad
and I'm
news
counting
first,
on
I
you,
guess.
okay? Because you are still a leader at every age that you are. At 8 years old, that's a serious leadership. So you're in 3rd grade? Yeah. 2nd grade? You're
All
in
right, hey,
2nd grade?
that's all good news to me. I'll take it.
Okay, I'm
That
counting
sounds
on
great.
you, okay, Faith? Okay, sweetheart. And thank you, thanks for the time, and please take care, okay?
Hey, you're the Grim Reaper. That's good. All right. Oh, that's right. Go blue, go blue. All right.
Your vote and everything behind you, so you can get through it, but I think it's still very important.
Okay, go ahead.
Each other, their power, their voices, their vote. This election is obviously, so important. How are you doing? It's so very, it's very kind and thoughtful. I appreciate it. Thank you, my dear. That's very, I appreciate it very much. And we are all doing this together. That's right. We are all doing it together. Thank you. I thank you for just those words. You too, all of us. Okay. Oh, I'm so excited about that. Oh, you are. Oh, I'm so excited. Well, and I just actually did some Milwaukee radio interviews this morning. But the Milwaukee small business, just the community is just thriving. So I'm looking forward to paying attention to your work and supporting it. And thank you for all of that. Thank you.
All right, we're going to continue to monitor what's going on over at the Democratic National Committee headquarters in Washington, D.C. The vice president, there you can see on the phone, speaking with potential voters, urging them to go out and vote even at this very, very late stage. We'll continue to monitor this, see if there's any more developments unfolding. We'll get back to it if yes, the answer. Meanwhile, other important aspects of what's going on. Just yesterday, the Philadelphia District Attorney Larry Krasner had this warning for anyone planning to interfere with voting there. Listen.
Anybody who thinks it's time to play militia, F around and find out. Anybody who thinks it's time to insult, to deride, to mistreat, to threaten people, F around and find out. We do have the cuffs, we do have the jail cells, we do have the Philly juries, and we have the state prisons. If you're going to try to bully people, bully votes or voters, you're going to try to erase votes, you're going to try any of that nonsense, we're not playing. F around and find out.
His message, don't F around by any means. The district attorney, Larry Krasner, is joining us right now. District attorney, thanks so much for joining us. Leading up to today's election, what kind of threats were you actually hearing about that made you come out with this very, very strong warning?
Well, we had all kinds of information from different sources. We have good partners with the FBI and other federal agencies, as well as the Philadelphia Police Department. But the good news is it's actually been very smooth today. It's been a little bit more aggressive, but we do not have a single arrest today in relation to the election itself. We have been dispatching lawyers and police officers and detectives all day to make sure everything was smooth. And it has been, in this cycle, just as in the last cycle, pretty smooth. High turnout, no big problems. We are hoping that will continue with this evening's rush.
Polls have been open in your state since 7 a.m. this morning, and you've got several more hours to go until the polls close, especially in Philadelphia. Is your warning, do you think, being heard?
Well, it seems to me that a whole lot of work has been done by a lot of people, and they found out. You know, maybe they found out in advance, but that's the way you want it. We don't want the problems. We just want a fair, free, final election, and it looks like so far that's exactly what we have.
I know you've set up, District Attorney, an election task force hotline so that voters can report any concerns or possible irregularities. What kind of calls have you received so far?
We've received a lot of calls that are pretty similar to what we get basically every election cycle. But to me, maybe the most important point is we have almost no calls whatsoever that are claiming actual voter fraud. We have probably about 5 calls of that nature. 3 of them look like they're not even worthy of additional investigation. It's just sort of a misunderstanding of the rules, that sort of thing. A couple of them require a little bit more work. But look, this is a city of 1.6 million people. This is, unless I'm mistaken, the largest city among the swing states, or at least the second largest. And what we are seeing in general is smooth sailing when it comes to this election. Nothing that so far has been worthy even of an arrest.
Smooth sailing is good. Larry Krasner, the District Attorney of Philadelphia, thanks so much for joining us. Good luck to you and to all your folks over there as well. There's a lot more news we're following on this historic day right now. New voting turnout numbers just in from Nevada. Stay with us. As Election Day in America evolves, we've seen officials in several key states reporting especially heavy turnout right now. And we're watching all of this unfold. I want to go back to CNN's Paula Reed over at the voting desk. Update our viewers, Paula.
Wolf, the Nevada Secretary of State, has released the first numbers on in-person Election Day voting, revealing that 57,000 people have already turned up to the polls. And it's interesting, the breakdown. They report 20,905 registered Republicans, 16,799 registered Democrats, and then 19,154 people listed as other have voted in the first 3 hours since polls were opened, and these figures will be updated as the day goes on. Now, the secretary is also busy texting voters who need to cure their ballots, meaning they need to verify their signatures before they can be counted by the November 12th deadline. Now, according to these new numbers, as of today, 13,906 ballots still need to be cured. 12,939 ballots have already been successfully fixed, but the bulk of the outstanding ballots that need to be cured are in this little county down here, Clark County. That is where Las Vegas and its suburbs are located, and where Democrats really need to drive turnout if they want to carry the state. Now, historically, it's been older voters who often have problems with their mail-in ballots, with their signatures or the dates, but Nevada says it is seeing a trend of younger voters who need to fix their ballots, and they also say those younger voters don't tend to answer their phones when the Secretary of State calls, but they have until November 12th to fix those ballots if they want them to be counted. Wolf.
Let's hope that happens. All right, Paula Reed, thank you very much. And take a look at the lines in just some of the battleground states that have campaigns, that the campaigns have spent a lot of time and money in. I want to go straight to CNN political director David Chalian. David, what are the campaigns paying the most attention to as we get closer and closer to the first polls actually closing?
Well, Wolf, one of the things that the campaigns are doing today is figure out who else is left to turn out, because there was a big turnout in pre-election vote. Take a look at all the votes cast thus far before we got to Election Day today, 83.7 million. And by the way, it's probably going to go higher than that once all the mail ballots that were cast get tabulated. So that would be more than half of the total turnout in 2020. So what does that leave today for campaigns? Well, what they're doing is they're looking precinct by precinct at their targets in these battleground states about what they need, since they have a lot of information about those early voters. What do they need to turn out on Election Day, and are they meeting those targets? And if they're below, you're going to see a surge of resources to get out the vote. You're going to hear candidates go on radio or do tele-rallies at the last minute, try to make sure they surge with campaign resources to get their target made. If they are meeting their target, you'll see those resources deployed elsewhere. So it's a constant tracking of Election Day turnout, knowing everything they know about who already cast their ballots, Wolf.
Yeah, it's critically important. All right, David Chalian, thank you very, very much. Up next, a closer look at how voting is going on in California as we wait for those first exit polls. We'll be right back. Welcome back to our special coverage of Election Day in America. We're just about an hour away from the first exit polls, which will give us a glimpse into who voted and for which candidate they voted and why. I want to go live right now to CNN's Veronica Miracle. She's joining us from Santa Ana, California. What are the voters telling you over there, Veronica?
Well, Wolf, we've heard from a lot of voters today. In fact, you can see just how long the lines are right now. We've seen a steady stream of voters since we got here at 8 this morning. And not only have we seen voters who've wanted to vote in person, we've seen a steady stream of cars of people dropping off ballots at the ballot box. 3 voters that we spoke to all said they voted for former President Donald Trump. They said that the economy was the most important issue for them, and that during former President Donald Trump's presidency, they felt that the economy was at its best, and that's why they decided to come and vote for him today. But one man said, although he voted for the former president, he doesn't think he's going to win. Take a listen.
It's just an intuitive feeling, you know. I don't think he had the best debate performance. Basically, the reason I think he's going to lose is because of the 2022 elections, and all the pro-Trump candidates lost, with the exception of J.D. Vance.
All voters that we've spoken to, they all say that this process has been seamless, so they've had to wait in line. They do feel like it's been transparent. Everybody's been happy with how the voting has gone today. Back to you, Wolf.
All right, Veronica Miracle, thank you very, very much. I want to get back to my excellent panel. And Manu, as you know, the Trump campaign's ground game operation basically has been outsourced to other groups, including Charlie Kirk's Turning Point Action. Charlie Kirk tweeted this earlier today. Let me put it up on the screen. Turnout is mixed and not where we want it to be. We need more people to vote. We can't let turnout flatline. Text everyone you know. Make more noise. We need more, end quote. What do you make of that?
I mean, look, he could just be trying to encourage his voters to get out the polls, but maybe he's seeing something that is drawing concern. Wolf, I am very eager to see these first exit polling information that we're going to get here in a matter of minutes here. Look, we could learn about the nature of this electorate. Is it the people that the Trump campaign have been trying to get out to the poll, non-college educated voters, in particular male voters, to try to make up the deficit that they're going to have with women voters? Virtually, as we've seen some of the early voting numbers come in some of the states, early women outpacing men. They know they have to make up the ground. They're given the gender gap that's going to exist here. And what are the issues that are driving the voters to the polls today? The economy, always number one, but what is right underneath it? Is it the border, the issues that the Trump campaign has been hammering on? Is it issues like democracy that could be more favorable to Democrats, or abortion? That was so critical as we weight those numbers to determine what are those the campaigns have effectively got their voters to the polls.
As you know, Jamie, as a result of the polls, all the polls, especially in the battleground states, being so close, very tight, it's produced a lot of anxiety, high anxiety on both sides right now.
Yeah, and soon we will know the answer. But I asked one Democratic strategist who has a lot of insight into the polls. I said, "What do you know?" And he said to me, "Do you want me to answer with my brain, my heart, or my PTSD trauma from 2016?" He said, "We really don't know yet. I think this is the time for Dan Rather. Tight as a tick was one, and then one source sent me this: we are nervous as a long-tailed cat in a room full of rocking chairs." We will know in a couple of hours.
A lot of people are nervous right now. And Neil, let me get to you, because as you know, we're watching all of this unfold, but we don't really know who's going to win right now, do we?
No, we have no idea. I mean, this is one of the closest elections we've seen. You've seen these polls be tight as a tick down to the wire in these 7 battleground states. What's interesting is these candidates couldn't be more different. They closed in very different ways. Kamala Harris closed with an upbeat vision, and you had Donald Trump all about grievance and sort of talking down to Americans, being racist and sexist Marxist, and we'll see. I mean, I think one of the things that'll be interesting when we see these exit polls is the late deciders, right? Did they break for Donald Trump or did they break for Kamala Harris? We had some insight from the Kamala Harris campaign saying that they were breaking the late deciders for Kamala Harris. What did the MSG rally have to do with that? So that'll be something we'll learn, I think, from these exit polls coming up.
Manu, what are you hearing from the hidden Trump voter and the hidden Harris voter?
Yeah, look, I mean, Trump has underperformed in public polling versus the actual outcome that we saw in 2016 and 2020. But the question is going to be tonight is about whether or not Democrats are the underpolling of the abortion voters. Look, since the Dobbs decision, Democrats have been outseating expectations in the midterms and other special elections. Will that be the case tonight? And will that outpace the hidden Trump vote?
All right, guys, thank you very, very much. It's been a pleasure working with all of you all day. Appreciate it very much. And again, we're just about an hour away from the first exit poll data and 2 hours from the first poll closings. CNN's Election Night in America gets underway right now.
It's election night in America. Voters are having their say, your say, and the countdown is on to the very first exit polls and the first results.
All across the USA, from Arizona to Pennsylvania, Michigan to Georgia, and battlegrounds in between, the final hours of voting are underway in one of the closest and most consequential presidential races ever.
The American people are exhausted with his gaslighting. Enough!
Kamala, you've done a horrible job as vice president. You're fired.
After a year of stunning twists and turns, the time to choose is here.
We will win, win, win.
We will win!
Tonight, an historic and unpredictable election. Vice President Kamala Harris, aiming to be the first woman and first woman of color to serve in the Oval Office after replacing President Biden as their party's choice late in the campaign.
It is my pledge to you that I will always fight for all the American people.
Former President Donald Trump, hoping to become only the second ex-commander-in-chief to return to the White House, even after his unprecedented criminal indictments and convictions.
We will never give up. We will never back down. And we will never, ever, ever, ever surrender.
2 tickets with dramatically different visions for the country.
Why don't we have a border? Because Kamala Harris refuses to do her damn job.
Donald Trump has no plan for you. His plan is for what's good for Donald Trump.
The entire world in suspense, waiting for the final verdict of voters.
November 5th will be the most important day in the history of our country.
Who will win and when?
Are you ready to make your voices heard?
This is CNN's coverage of Election Night in America, the race for the White House, the campaign for Congress, and the challenges facing the nation.
Do we believe in the promise of America?
We will make America great again.
There's never been an election like this one, and anything is possible until the last vote.
Democracy in action as you see voters casting ballots in Arizona as well as in Wisconsin and, of course, all across the nation with the power of the presidency and control of Congress on the line. Welcome to CNN's live coverage of Election Night in America. I'm Jake Tapper. Right now, Americans are making a monumental decision, choosing either Vice President Kamala Harris or former President Donald Trump to lead the country through the next 4 years. We'll soon get some early clues about what voters are thinking when we roll out our first exit poll results about an hour from now, and that will help set the stage for the battle ahead, the all-important race to 270, the number of electoral votes needed to win the White House. All 50 states play a role in getting one candidate or the other to hit that magic number. But this election is expected to come down to 7 crucial competitive battlegrounds. that we will be watching very closely in the hours and days ahead. Georgia is the first key race of the night when voting ends there at 7 p.m. Eastern. Vice President Harris in a tough fight for the state that Democrats flipped from red to blue 4 years ago. A half hour after that, North Carolina is in the spotlight. Former President Trump is on defense in this swing state that he narrowly won in both 2020 and 2016. Then at 8 Eastern, all eyes are on the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania, one of the traditional blue wall battlegrounds, seen as critical for Democrats to win the presidency. Then at 9 Eastern, Michigan and Wisconsin are up for grabs, two more of those blue wall states where the Harris-Trump contest is close and bitterly contested. Then a third pivotal swing state is on the line at 9 p.m. Eastern. That's Arizona, making that a very important hour. And there's one more battleground to watch, Nevada. Voting ends there at 10 p.m. Eastern as we get deeper into the night and the fight for electoral votes. Aaron Burnett and our battleground correspondents are going to give us updates on turnout and vote counting in those crucial swing states, along with Pamela Brown at the voting desk. John King is at his post at the Magic Wall, where he will be mapping out the votes and tracking the trends all night long. David Chalian is crunching our exit poll numbers and will bring us the very first results imminently. Boris Sanchez is following the balance of power in Congress, with 34 Senate seats and all 435 House seats up for grabs. Our political team is going to break it all down. Adi Cornish, Dana Bash, and Chris Wallace are here. And Anderson Cooper is with David Axelrod, Van Jones, Alyssa Farah-Griffin, and David Urban. Plus, of course, we have correspondents covering the presidential candidates. Let's go right now to Abby Phillip at Harris campaign headquarters at the vice president's alma mater, Howard University, here in Washington, D.C. Abby, what is the mindset right now from the Harris campaign as results start to come in some places?
Jake, I've been talking to Harris advisors all day, people inside and outside of the campaign. The word I'm getting from them is cautious optimism. A lot of these people have been in the battleground states throughout the weekend and in the last couple of days. They are seeing a momentum shift on the ground. They believe that something has changed in their favor. So a lot of the people that I'm speaking with, they are feeling good coming into tonight. One person, though, who doesn't really want to talk about winning is the candidate herself. Vice President Kamala Harris is almost superstitious about not wanting to have that kind of conversation. She has been head down all day today on the phones, doing phone interviews with radio stations. She just went to the DNC here in Washington a few minutes ago to call voters and ask them to get out and vote. She has been working on getting out the vote. One person who spoke with her recently said she is not one to even get close to measuring the drapes. She wants to make sure every single vote is counted before her mind goes to that place. And right now, the Harris team, they are in work mode. They still believe they have a lot of work to do to keep their voters coming out to the polls as we get into these evening hours, Jake.
All right, Abby Phillip with the Harris campaign at Howard University here in Washington, D.C. Let's go now to Caitlin Collins, who is several hundred miles south at Trump campaign headquarters in West Palm Beach, Florida, near Mar-a-Lago. Caitlin, what is happening in Trump world in these closing hours of voting?
Jake, they're watching everything very closely. This is a team that has been poring over these numbers all day, much like the Harris campaign has as well. For Donald Trump himself, he didn't arrive back here in Palm Beach, Florida until about 5:30 this morning. That came after he held that late-night rally in Grand Rapids, Michigan, where he always closes out his presidential campaigns. He hasn't gotten much sleep, based on what I've heard from sources who say that he has been peppering his aides all day long, asking for updates on this race and where the polling stands right now and how the voting has been looking today. I am told one thing that they have zeroed in on is that number of early voting, where Republicans have done very well, obviously a change from just a few years ago when Donald Trump was incredibly critical of early voting. Those numbers have given them a newfound confidence in the last 24 hours or so, Jake, and that is the number that Trump campaign aides are giving to surrogates in order to try to boost them and excite them going into this. Now, whether or not that confidence is warranted, Jake, remains to be seen. And I should note, I am at the Trump campaign convention center where they are going to be having their party here tonight. Trump himself will be watching the returns come in from his Mar-a-Lago club just a few moments away. There are several hundred guests that are invited there, and those that we are expected to be around him are names like Elon Musk, Robert F. Kennedy Jr., Dana White, newfound allies of his that have obviously been out on the campaign trail with him as well, Jake.
All right, Caitlin Collins, we'll check back with you in a minute. Now to the Magic Wall, where John King is mapping out the candidates' potential paths to 270 electoral votes. John, how do they get there?
Jake, we begin the night with each candidate having several paths to 270, but we also know from history that certain states tend to loom larger, if you will, in that path. So let me start here with the three right here. Those are the three states, the blue wall, the so-called blue wall, Pennsylvania, Michigan, Wisconsin. They have voted together since 1992. They have voted blue in every election except 2016. Remember, that was Donald Trump's big surprise. He flipped the blue wall red, and he won the White House. So they are the most important states. And if you are the vice president of the United States, they are your easiest. There are no easy paths to 270, but this would be her easiest. Look where we have her right now. 226 electoral votes, solid or likely Democratic. 219 votes, solid or likely Republican. If the vice president can hold Pennsylvania, Joe Biden won it, hold Michigan, Joe Biden won it, and hold Wisconsin, Joe Biden won it, that alone, as long as she wins Nebraska's 2nd congressional district, would get her to 270, and she would be the next president of the United States. That's the blue wall strategy. Now, can she win without the blue wall? Let's take those back. She can. She can win with the Sun Belt strategy. That would be North Carolina, Georgia, and then you come west and you do Arizona and Nevada. Now, these would be tough. Donald Trump has been consistently either ahead or at least competitive, more competitive than other states in the polls there, but the vice president can do it simply with the Sun Belt strategy. So let's look at this from Donald Trump's perspective. Can he do it with just the Sun Belt strategy? Let's start there. The answer is no. Watch. If Donald Trump wins North Carolina, wins Georgia, wins Arizona, and turns Nevada red for the first time since 2004, I believe, that would only get him to 268. So Donald Trump needs at least one of the blue wall states. That's what makes this fascinating, Jake. They have voted together since 1992. The question, we've broken a lot of rules in our politics in the last 8 or 10 years. The question is, do we break one tonight? If one candidate can put these together, if it's the vice president, she's automatically president. If Donald Trump wins these three, he would only need one more going through.
So as the votes come in, what are you going to be looking for?
So let's switch maps as we do that, because you went through the poll closings. I think we should prepare the American people to think, I don't know, it'll go to Saturday like 2020 did, but we should be prepared for an election that we're not certain of the winner tonight. However, because several states do promise to count faster, we're going to get some significant clues. This is the 2024 map. Votes will fill in pretty soon, right? So let's go back to the 2020 map to answer your question. As you noted, we're going to get Georgia results first of the battleground states, right? And so what are we going to look for right away, right? Number one, how fast are the returns? Number two, how is the vice president of the United States doing in the bedrock of any Democratic victory? That's Fulton County, that's the African-American vote, and the close-in suburbs of Atlanta. Absolutely key. It was key to Joe Biden's win. You see he got 73% in Atlanta and the surrounding suburbs. It would be key for the vice president. Then for me, the biggest test here is, can Donald Trump perform in the suburbs at his 2016 levels? Watch. He's losing here in Cobb County, but with 47% in 2016. In 2020, he drops to 42%. It was Donald Trump's suburban struggles that cost him the election in 2020. So we will get some early clues in Georgia, Jake, as you come back to the 2020 map here, and then we'll come up to 24 right in here. About half of the vote in the state of Georgia is going to come right in here in the metropolitan Atlanta area. Yes, Donald Trump will run it up in the rural red areas. We will want to look there to see if turnout is as high as it was in 2016, and it was even higher in 2020. So we'll get some seeds of the Trump base, but if the Trump base is turning out and the Harris base is turning out, this is a race that will be settled, Jake, once again in the American suburbs. Donald Trump won the suburbs in 2016. He collapsed in the suburbs in 2020.
Very interesting. John King, thanks so much. I'm here at the table with my panel, and let's just run down, starting with you, Audie. What are you looking for? Obviously, there's so much, but just give me one.
I would say that 2020 was a historic turnout. I mean, the highest since the 1900s. So if it doesn't match that, who stayed home and why? And I think so many of our questions will come to that. Which group stayed home and why?
Donald Trump has been running for 2 years. Kamala Harris has been running for 107 days. So one of my big questions is, particularly with her candidacy, is whether that was just enough time to introduce herself
to the country and to candidates who were dead set on voting for a Democrat, wasn't so sure about him, or whether she could have used a little bit more time.
This has been, I think, the most explicit gender gap, gender appealing election in my memory. And so I'm going to be looking at the gender gap. As they say on Wall Street, past performance is no guarantee of future results, but it is an indication. So I look back at 2020. The electorate in 2020 was 52% women, 48% men. Among women, Biden was up by 15 points. Among men, Trump was up by 8 points. So I'm going to be looking to see, one, whether the margins change one way or the other, pro-Trump, pro-Biden, and also the overall electorate. 52-48 4 years ago. Is it going to be a different mix of men and women this time?
And also, even if it isn't a different mix in terms of overall numbers, are the women who are voting differently? Registered Republicans, independents, voting differently because this is the first presidential election post-Roe. And that is why so many, I think one of the sort of phrases of the week is nauseously optimistic. Yeah. We've probably all heard that from both sides of the aisle. But from the Democrats, they are still banking on women in particular and some men. I know, saying and we're it's so draconian focused on that in so many states. But what's fascinating is Kamala Harris actually didn't run as an identity candidate, right? We're not looking at someone who took the Barack Obama approach in talking about her resume and trying to appeal to people's better natures when it comes to race. And she's not doing what Hillary Clinton did.
But she's running on freedom. And when she says freedom, she's the number one thing in that freedom bucket is reproductive rights.
On the other hand, there was that hot mic moment when she was sitting down, Kamala Harris, with Gretchen Whitmer, the governor of Michigan, and she said, we really got to work on the men. They definitely feel that with this bro strategy that and getting the endorsement just today from Joe Rogan, that Donald Trump has succeeded in appealing to men and appealing especially to young men, and even young men who are Latino or Black. They got to cut a little bit into that, and they also need to do really, really well among women, including Republican women.
We're closing in on our very first exit poll results, early insights into the minds of people who turned out to vote and the issues driving their choices for president. Straight ahead, we're going to take you inside polling places in crucial battleground states where ballots are being cast right now. Stay with us as we track every vote until we know who wins and who loses, whenever that may be. This is Election Night in America on CNN.